a researcher in computer science education. So I've been working on, I'm a computer scientist, but I've been working in education since 2002. Thinking about different things on how does the world change when we get more and more of these tools, but also all of these systems that we have around us, and what does that actually mean for us as human beings, not only for the society, but for us as a human being. And as a result of that, I've been, for over 10 years now, I've been working with schools, first on high school level, but now also on more and more with the smaller and smaller kids and their teachers, on programming and digital competence and these kind of things, and thinking about how could we get these into the curriculum. Next, please. And my journey started with this. Is this familiar to anyone? Has anyone seen this before? No? This was my first computer. It's a Commodore 64, and I got it when I was 9 years old. And regardless of what your first computer was, unless you're a kid, you probably remember that it was very, very slow. Right? Everything took a lot of time. And so when I wanted to play a game on this Commodore 64, it has, you see the tape recorder, so you had to rewind the tape, you had to write something on your keyboard, press play on the tape, and then you could go out with your dog and have breakfast, and you could brush your teeth, and then come back, and if you were lucky, your game had loaded, so you could actually start playing it. But if you weren't as lucky, you had to go through that process once again. And so this is something that has changed a lot, right? Because earlier when we used technology, we actually had the patience to wait, and we knew that everything doesn't work instantly. You might have to do things many times. We're not used to that anymore. We want everything to work like this. Another difference was that when I wanted to play a game on my computer, I have to go into my parents' bedroom, because that's where we had the computer. And then when I had played my game, I shut down the computer and I shut the door to my parents' bedroom, and I also shut the door to everything digital. Because outside of that room, there wasn't any digital technology, and this was in the late 80s. And then again, if we compare that to today, it's totally different. Because today it becomes more and more difficult to shut the door to technology. So when we had to make an active choice to use it earlier, now we have to try to make an active choice if we don't want to use it. And that choice becomes more and more difficult to make. So a lot has happened in 15, 20 years. And of course, for us who have seen the world without technology, all this digital is something that has come on top of the world as we knew it. So when I went to school, this was more or less the world that I was taught about. And this was the basic education. So we had, next please, we got some basic knowledge through all the school subjects that we learned. We learned about languages, we learned about math, about science, history, in order to know where we came from, etc. To get some kind of understanding of how does this world where we live actually work? What goes on in it? What do we need to know in order to make responsible choices, to not mess up too much? So for instance, if we know that water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, we might have some understanding of, okay, so if we go out and jump on the ice, on the sea, when the temperature has been around 0 for a while, it might not be the smartest thing to do, because it might still not be breeze strong enough. And of course, that's not a guarantee that we won't make the mistakes. We might still do them. I know I've been jumping on the ice and then fell through because it wasn't strong enough. But at least we get the awareness that, okay, so this happened because the ice wasn't strong enough, because. So we have the knowledge and the understanding and the awareness. And of course, we also learn a lot about how to behave towards each other, how to discuss, how to make compromises, etc. And all of this was part of my education. And of course, it's still an equally important part of today's education as well, because the world hasn't changed, not this part. Next. But something else has happened. So if you think about any area of society, you can take politics, trade, living, health, relationships, education. So if you think back 15 years, 20 years, a lot has happened due to the digitalization. So we have these digital tools which changed the medium. So we have gone from pen and paper to having things on the computer. But at the same time, it also changes how we do things. So for instance, if you think about how we listened to music 20 years ago, maybe CDs, but today we might be listening to Spotify or something similar. And at the same time as we have gone from a product to a service, we have also maybe started listening to music in a different way. Because I know that I listen to music much more today. I don't listen to a complete album because I only have 2 songs that I like on this album, so I then switch to another one. And I get exposed to more music than I did before. And this is true for all areas of society. That the digitalization, it's not only about, okay, so we get the computers and then we are digitalized. It's about how the digital technology and all the systems we have actually change how we can and how we want to do things. So we have the world, the natural world, we have the buildings we built from concrete and wood and metal and other things, other physical materials. But now we also have the digital world. And that's abstract, we can't really touch that, right? But it's still there. But when something's abstract and we can't touch it, it can feel like magic. So when we get a new version of Spotify, or if we get a new version of something, or Google presents us with search results, it just feels like, okay, so this is just what Google does. It's magic. But in the same way as somebody has decided how this building should be built, somebody has also decided how to build Spotify, what kind of features do we want. And of course, any potential agendas are also then visible in those systems. And in such a world, wouldn't it be weird if we wouldn't at all think about what's the basic knowledge in this area? So what's the basic knowledge corresponding to water freezes at 0 degrees? What's the corresponding knowledge in the digital world? And what kind of understanding do we need to have in order to be aware and not make too many mistakes? Of course we make mistakes, but at least so we have the awareness. And so that we can also treat each other well and behave correctly in the digital world, online. So all of this is now also important in the total world. And of course, we see this as something new, but for the kids, this is just part of their world, because they have never seen a world that didn't have the internet, for instance. And based on this, many countries are now rewriting their curricula. So I work in Finland and Sweden, both with the National Agency for Education in both countries. And Finland got a new curriculum in 2014, came into force in 2016, and Sweden is now renewing their curricula, and that will come into force in about a month, so 1st of July. And there are lots of different definitions of what is digital competence. European Union has their own, and it's one of their key competencies, etc. But I like this one, which is from the Swedish National Agency for Education, where they basically said, okay, so digital competence, it's based on 4 different aspects. The first one is that we need to understand how digitalization affects society. So if we have a situation where this technology and the different systems we have changes the ways in which we do things. Algorithms affect the world view we have, because my search results, they don't necessarily match your search results on the same search word. We get a lot of systems that help us so that we can work at a distance, etc., etc. Our artificial intelligence and so on. So how does this actually affect the society, and how does it affect us as individuals? And then the second one is maybe the thing that we've talked about most previously, that we talk about being able to use digital tools. So of course, the first step was that, okay, so we buy the computers. But then we find out that just having the computer isn't enough. We actually need to know what to do with it as well. And then the next one is to actually also understand it. Because today we have so many apps for the same thing, we have so many systems that can do the same thing, that we need to actually understand, so if I want to do this specific thing, which tool or app should I use? So also having an understanding of the limitations and the possibilities. And then the third one, having a critical and responsible attitude towards technology. Again, somebody has created a system, somebody decides that the search results that I get doesn't look the same as somebody else's. So we need to have this critical awareness about what does this actually mean? And all the information we have around us, it's not necessarily true, right? We've learned that there is a lot of fake news around us. So we have to have this critical and responsible attitude. And again, have an understanding on why is this possible? Why can we have a video of Barack Obama saying something which looks very true, and then in the next minute see it, okay, so it's not Barack Obama saying those things, it's somebody else, but with technology we could take his voice, we could take a text, and we could take his lip movements and make it look like Obama actually says it. So technology makes it possible to do things that we didn't really think was possible. And then the fourth one, which I'm actually going to talk more about here, is about being able to solve problems and implement ideas with technology. So how can we use this digital technology to, if we have an idea, and we can find the digital technology to solve that problem? Because compared to previous years, or previously, if we wanted to do something big, it usually meant that we had to have a lot of money. If we wanted to build a new tractor, or we wanted to build a new paper machine, or whatever, we had to have a lot of money, a lot of investments, because that was the only way we could actually start building it. But in the digital world, the only thing you need is basically an idea. Because with that idea, and if you have the tools to implement that idea, for instance, using programming, you can build the next Spotify, the next Robio, or the next big system you have here in Romania. So let's talk a bit more about that one. And of course, part of what we've done as humans is to use new technology to solve problems that we've had or implement new ideas. How many has been bowling? You know, the throwing the ball and then the pegs go down. Yes, some of you. And the pegs, they come down automatically, right? All of a sudden they're there again, although you did the strike and then, oops, there they are. Nobody's there putting them up, right? But earlier somebody actually was. So we could have had kids there getting all of those up for us to throw the ball again, and then that would go on and on. Of course, we don't have that anymore because we have solved the problem with technology. Before we had alarm bells, if we lived in the city and we didn't have roosters there, somebody might have the job of actually going and knocking on people's windows. Not maybe the safest job, in the sense if people are tired in the morning and you come and knock on the third floor window, but still somebody had to do that. And before we had electricity, we still wanted to have lights on the streets, and somebody had to light those. And these are things we take for granted, but these are also, we take for granted that we don't do it like this now, but at some point this was also human labor in a sense. You've probably all heard this quote by Henry Ford, that you can have any car, you can have your car in any color as long as you want, as long as it's black. So this was the start of the assembly line, and you could have a car, and the idea was that, okay, so it's a car. Why would anybody want a specialized car, right? It can take you to place A to B. Well, that's my idea of a car still today, but it can take you from place A to B. Who cares what color it is? Do you have any idea why it was black? Why did they want it to be black? Because if you have the assembly line, it builds on the idea that everything takes a given amount of time, right? And everything goes forward at a certain pace. Black dries fastest. So if we then put a lime green color or a pink color, that will mess up the system, because then it won't be an assembly line in the same way anymore. Of course, they changed it later. But this was the example of a mass market idea where you could have somebody designing the product, you had somebody else producing it, and then you had somebody else consuming it. And this was the case for a very long time. But how many of you today have a cover for your iPhone, for your phone? Some kind of cover for it? Is everybody's cover black? No, because you have a black one. Well, mine is white, and I have a pink one. How many have several colors? Yes, we might even have several, and that's because we don't necessarily want the thing that the next door neighbor has. We might want that special thing that makes it look more like us. So we have something called, next please, market of one. That who cares if we solve a problem for everyone? It could also be something that only I need, or it could be a product that only I care about. So we can have the same person being the designer, the producer, and the customer. We don't have to have several people involved if we don't want to. If I have an idea, I can produce it, and I can also consume it. So this is an example. This is a microbit, the black thing in the middle. This is a project we've done at home with my kids. They were 6 and 8 at the time. And they had a very concrete problem. Their parents ate their Saturday candy. And then they came to us and said, we have to solve this problem. We don't want you to eat our candy anymore. And then they knew that, well, we have a lot of these things at home. So then they said that they've thought of using this then microbit to build a candy alarm. And the microbit is kind of, has anybody used the microbit? So it's a platform now that it's introduced in education quite a lot. It comes from England, so there they hand it out to all 11, 12 years old. Denmark does the same thing now, and quite a few schools in Finland and Sweden use it as well. So you can program it, it has lights, so you can make, and you can have it to have sound, and then it has sensors built in. So it has a light sensor, it has a compass, it has an accelerometer, so it notices if it moves. So then my kids have decided, okay, so we want to use the light sensor. Okay, so if I have candy here, and then my hand, mom's or dad's hand, comes like this, what happens to the light level when the hand gets closer to the candy? It goes down, right? So then we together, they had the idea, they came to me, we sat down and we programmed this so that when the hand comes down, the light level goes down, and then this will start beeping and blinking. And they were so happy, because now we wouldn't eat their candy anymore. Except for a couple of days later, they came up to me and said, it doesn't work. Because we live in a house with a basement, and in the basement we have a toilet, and the toilet doesn't have any windows. So they said, you just bring the bowl and take it down to the toilet, and then you'll eat all the candy there, and then you'll come out. Okay, so we need to come up with something else. So then they decided that should also react to if you move the microbit, so that it also reacts to that one. Let's see if we get the video. No, okay, so back up. Okay, now we get the video. So it's not a very loud noise, so it's not scary in any way, but that's the way it so it starts blinking and then it starts having noise. And of course, this wasn't a problem. This wasn't a solution that we would start selling to the world, because nobody would buy it. But for my kids, this was a big solution to their very big and very real and very urgent need of protecting their candy. And I think this is the idea when we talk about programming, for instance, in schools, which we're now doing in Finland and Sweden and many other countries as well. It's not about getting people to become programmers. It's not about them meeting the needs of the industry. It's more about giving them the tools to actually see that, hey, if I have a problem, I might be able to solve that problem. I might not be able to do the programming myself, and I might not be able to have all the tools myself, but I might find friends around me together with whom we could actually solve the problem. Now I have no idea what the time is. How many minutes do I have left? 8. 5? 8. I'll take 8. Sorry. 8 sounds better than 5. Thank you. So let's just do an experiment. Everybody knows what this is, right? It's a toaster. Has anybody just bought a new toaster? No, they don't break too often. But say that you would have to buy a new toaster and you go to the store and then you start, where are all the Wi-Fi connected toasters? Is that a question you might have? That you would like to find a Wi-Fi connected toaster? No? So you haven't missed the smart toaster. You know, we have a lot of smart things now. And this is something that's actually happening. So I have a smart toothbrush. I didn't know it was smart when I bought it, but it's connected and it's kind of good because I brush my teeth much better today. But so we're seeing more and more of these regular things being connected to the internet. So we have smart TVs, we have cars that are connected to the internet, we will have clothes connected to the internet. And we can think this is a good idea, or we can think it's a stupid idea and totally unnecessary. But regardless of, we will have the situation where we'll have smart toasters in the store where we go there. This talk about the Internet of Things, the idea that we will have more and more of regular products being connected to the internet. So I'll give you, nobody has missed a smart toaster, so if I were to come here and start pitching a smart toaster, I wouldn't get much money from you, right? No. But so what kind of features would you like to have in a smart toaster? You can talk for half a minute with your neighbor and think about what features would you like to have in a toaster that you could connect to the internet? You could steer it using an app, or it could talk to other things or something like that. This is a task that's very fun to do with kids. Grown-ups, we're more in this box. Kids think more outside of it. But think about it for half a minute. What kind of features would you want to have in a smart toaster? Sorry? You would like to have your picture on the toast. Okay. Anybody else wants their picture on the toast? No? But maybe Donald Duck or somebody else to get the kids to eat the bread better. Yes? Inspirational quotes on the bread in the morning. Yes, perfect. No burnt toast. Because we all know that if you have this mechanical one, you have your perfect place, and then your husband goes there, and he starts messing with the grate, and then it takes you ages to find the perfect toasting grate again. Yes? Animal on it. You would like to have an animal, a cat? Yes, or any animal. So you would like to have pictures, texts, and yes? Play some music. So you could choose the music you want. Okay. So when it comes out, something fun in the morning. Perfect. So if we would have a toaster with all these, would you then buy it? No. Not a single one. Oh, yes, 1, 2. Perfect. You didn't even want it when you had the inspirational quote. Perfect. But there actually are smart toasters. Of course there are smart toasters. Somebody has come up with it. So this one is called Toasteroid. And let's have a look at what kind of features it has. So it has the brownness control, so you can actually get this, you won't burn your bread anymore. You can doodle on it, so you weren't too far-fetched. And you can actually also have the weather printed on your bread. So if you don't want to open the window in the morning, you could just have a look at your bread. This one? Anyone? The same 3-4 people? So this might seem like a very stupid idea. Like an idiotic idea that's total waste of time. We have big problems in the world. Why should we start thinking about making our toasters smart? But an idiotic idea might feel idiotic to us here. If I were to pitch it, I wouldn't get money from you. But maybe if I asked in all of Pojezd, I would find 2 people who would think, I could give you 10 euros for this. Then if I took Finland with me, we might have, and all of Romania, we might have 20 people thinking, good idea, but I won't build a new toaster with 20 people. But the thing is, with the digitalization, you're not restricted to your local area anymore. So this particular toaster received $187,849 on Kickstarter, a crowdsourcing platform. Anyone, anywhere, regardless of if you live in a small village somewhere where you barely have an internet connection, if you have the idea, you can present it to the world, and you can actually have the world help you implement it. And that's something we haven't seen before, because this gives the opportunities to so many more people than we ever had the possibility earlier. And of course, if we think about who creates these systems, who are the ones who have traditionally been involved in technology, who have made these new innovations, Google made a study in 2015 when they asked 16,000 students, parents and educators what somebody working in IT looks like. And this was the result. White men with glasses. And of course that's not a problem per se, because they obviously create good systems because we use them. But the question is, can we actually see that any narrow group of people, regardless of whether it's white men with glasses or it's blonde women from Finland or Romanian 30-year-old ladies, can that group of people see the needs and requirements of all the global population? I don't think they can, because we also see that in different systems that are built and having bias built into it. So for instance, the camera from Nikon, which was built so that it shouldn't take pictures if someone in the picture blinks. And the big problem there was that, okay, if somebody with an Asian origin smiled, the camera won't take a picture. And filters in services like Instagram and Facebook, they have been originally designed with pale faces. And then if somebody with a darker skin tries to use that filter on their own face, it doesn't work. It doesn't recognize the face. So lots of biases we have in our ordinary world, in the physical world, are also being replicated in the digital world. And since the digital world isn't local, that actually affects a lot of people. So the more people we get involved in actually thinking about these things, seeing the opportunity to actually be part of developing the digital part as well, not only building houses, etc. I think we will have better systems in the future, better products that actually solve problems that we see around us. And of course, this is both bad and good, because we don't really know what the future holds. Nobody knows, because it goes so fast. And Kevin Kelly has written a book called The Inevitable, so if you're interested in these kind of things, I highly recommend it. And he says that we're all endless newbies, because we won't know, we're always running after the train, because the train is going. But the good thing is that we're all in it together, because nobody actually knows where we're going. So it doesn't matter if you're a computer scientist, or if you're a teacher, or if you're a teacher trainer. The only thing you can do is try to think ahead and think freely, and try to foster, let's see if I have these ones, creativity, curiosity, helping people. Ask your kids, what would you like to do if you could make a smart toaster? What would you have it do? Learning to fail is important. In Finland, when I was a kid and went to school, I didn't really want to fail. I didn't want to make a mistake, because we had the grades and everything. But in today's society, it becomes more and more important to also accepting to fail, and learning to fail fast, as they say. So you know when you should stop an experiment and then do something else instead. And then, of course, the SISU as well, that you don't give up. And with that, one more. There you go. And with that, I say thank you. And if you have questions, please. No questions?
Suntem aici, suntem de la Chișinău. Linda a făcut ziua noastră mai frumoasă. Eram cumva dimineața supărată că nu mi s-a oferit apă, dar ea a arătat că a arătat partea frumoasă. Mulțumim pentru asta. Voiam să întrebăm. În media apar știri de genul. Finlanda a introdus digitalizarea din grădiniță. După care, în media apare. Finlanda se joacă doar în grădiniță. Fac astfel de programe și în grădiniță sau nu?
gardens have, but it's more maybe informal at kindergarten level. So we have clubs clubs and then different programs that run at kindergarten level, but it's not part of the kindergarten curriculum in the same way as at schools. In Finland. In Sweden, there will be more digital competence also at kindergarten level, starting this fall. At kindergarten or here? Yes, they are actually learning. Last night I didn't go to bed early because I was writing a research paper with my cousin, so we've been looking at kindergarten children who program both just using cards, unplugged, and then also with these small robots. And then we've analyzed what they do in those situations. So they might not learn programming per se, but they learn problem solving, they learn communication, they learn to take turns in discussing things, they learn to reason about their solutions in a way that, okay, so now this didn't work out, what do we have to do instead? And this perseverance that if the robot moves wrong, they don't throw the robot in the wall, thankfully, that would be very expensive for us. But they actually backtrack and start to think that, okay, so what went wrong here? And then they discuss that. So the collaboration part is very crucial there as well. Soft skills as well, definitely.
Thank you. Yeah. We have no more time for questions, unfortunately. In case you do not speak or understand Romanian, you should need a pair of headphones for our next presentation. And I'll mention something about Aspire for Teachers. It's a program I experienced actually 2 years ago to